You know that feeling when you're walking down the street and suddenly you realize you've been putting one foot in front of the other for, like, blocks, completely on autopilot?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right. Like your body is moving, you're navigating the sidewalk, avoiding people, but your mind has just been entirely somewhere else.
It's that jarring sensation of suddenly waking up in the middle of your own physical actions. You're almost surprised to find yourself there.
Exactly. Well, imagine if that jarring sensation never went away.
Mm.
Imagine if you were utterly convinced that everyone else in the world was handed a manual for how to be a human being.
Like a script.
Yeah, a script dictating how to laugh naturally, how to grieve appropriately, how to love genuinely, and your copy just got lost in the mail.
So you're just left entirely in the dark.
Right, so you are forced to merely mimic what everyone else is doing, walking through your days terrified that at any moment someone is going to point at you and realize you were entirely faking it.
You'd essentially be living your entire life as an imposter, just relegated to the margins of the main event of human existence.
Welcome, learner, to your custom-tailored deep dive. The source material you brought us today tackles this exact profound anxiety.
It's a really heavy one, but so fascinating.
It really is. We are looking at a speculative, fictional manuscript called The Book of Margins by Max and Claude, and the premise alone is just incredible.
Oh, completely.
It's written from the perspective of the famous Japanese author Osamu Dazai, but imagining an alternate history, one where he didn't actually die in 1948, but lived on, chronically haunted by the feeling of being fundamentally disqualified from humanity.
Which is such a brilliant concept for a character study.
Okay, let's unpack this,
Yeah.
because this text is just an absolute masterclass in dissecting what the narrator calls the awful doubling of consciousness, and really the sheer exhaustion of having to perform your daily life.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this manuscript uses the historical context of post-war Japan as this brilliant mirror for the narrator's internal state.
Right, because the whole country was going through an identity crisis.
Exactly. You have a society that has just watched its entire absolute narrative, its imperial certainties, its cultural script just collapse overnight.
Everything they knew was gone.
Right. So the nation is trying to reconstitute itself from the rubble and figure out what roles people are actually supposed to play now. And the narrator is experiencing that exact same collapse, but internally.
It's a relentless exploration of that chasm between the messy, empty reality of who we actually are and the rigid roles society expects us to embody seamlessly.
Yeah, and to even begin parsing this manuscript, we first have to really wrap our heads around the narrator's defining trait, which is this complete, seemingly incurable detachment from his own existence.
He talks about living in parentheses.
I love that phrase. He considers himself a scholar of the gap between self and world. He notes that as a child, he didn't actually feel enthusiasm. He just observed how other children acted and then imitated their enthusiasm.
Like taking notes on how to be a kid.
Basically, yeah. As a lover, he imitated passion. He even spends time pondering the word husbandry, wondering if, in his case, it simply means the intricate art of seeming to be present as a husband while actually letting your mind drift entirely elsewhere.
It's clinical dissociation functioning as a lifestyle.
It really is. And the text provides this remarkably vivid anecdote from his childhood that illustrates the physical toll of this condition. I mean, it's not just a philosophical problem for him.
Oh, you mean the math class story?
Yeah. So he recalls being in a middle school math class under the instruction of this notoriously stern teacher, Ito-sensei.
Terrifying situation for any kid.
Right. So the teacher calls him up to the chalkboard to solve an equation. He's holding the chalk. And the thing is, he actually knows the correct mathematical answer.
So he's not blanking on the math.
Not at all. But in that split second, this paralyzing wave of self-awareness washes over him. He doesn't see the math problem anymore. He just sees his own hand holding the chalk. He feels the collective gaze of 40 other students burning into his back. He becomes acutely aware of the teacher's looming expectations.
It's like he suddenly zooms out and sees himself from the ceiling.
Exactly. And the cognitive load of observing himself in that situation completely overwrites his ability to actually participate in it. He just freezes, turns to the teacher, and says, "I'm sorry, but I'm not here right now."
He literally announces his own absence to a room full of people. That is so wild.
And the agony of this condition is sharpened by the fact that he is constantly surrounded by people who seemingly are there.
Right. People who don't have this problem at all. Like Shimizu-san.
The contrast there is so sharp.
It really is. So the text introduces this man he worked with during the war, Shimizu-san. They're sitting in this bureaucratic war office, stamping papers, when a bomb detonates nearby.
A literal bomb.
Yeah, a massive explosion. The blast shakes the entire foundation of the building. Dust is falling from the ceiling. Colleagues are diving under desks. Sheer panic erupts everywhere.
Total chaos.
Total chaos. Shimizu-san, however, just casually stands up, walks over to the shattered window, looks out at the rising smoke, and states, "Well, we're still here."
It's almost comical how calm he is.
And the narrator is intensely jealous of the declarative certainty in that statement. Shimizu-san possesses the psychological architecture to simply be. He doesn't subject every moment to endless philosophical cross-examination.
For Shimizu-san, a bomb goes off, and the reality is simply that they survived.
Right.
But for the narrator, every single action in his life is footnoted with nervous qualifications. He struggles to even write the phrase, I think, without immediately drafting a mental paragraph, undercutting his right to even think it.
Yeah, Shimizu-san observes reality and exists firmly within it. The narrator's just trapped outside.
It makes me think of playing a highly immersive video game.
Oh, how so?
Well, instead of actually feeling like you are exploring the world and being the character, you never stop being hyper-aware of the plastic controller in your hands. You're just pressing buttons to make a digital puppet walk.
Or like having a snarky sports commentator living inside your frontal lobe, broadcasting your every single move in real time. Look at him, sipping his coffee, adjusting his posture to appear casually engaged. You never get to just taste the coffee.
Exactly. You're too busy watching yourself taste it.
But let me ask the tough question on behalf of our learner listening. At a certain point, does this awful doubling of consciousness cross the line from a psychological affliction into a convenient excuse?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Like, is he actually a prisoner in his own mind? Or is he just terrified of the effort and the vulnerability required to actually participate in reality?
Well, the narrator's own therapist introduces that exact counterargument in the text.
Oh, really? What does the therapist say?
The therapist suggests that this chronic detachment, this constant claim of not knowing how to be human, is actually a highly sophisticated defense mechanism.
A defense mechanism against what, though? Life?
Basically, yeah. When you refuse to commit to reality, when you constantly retreat into the safe, elevated position of the detached observer, you insulate yourself from failure.
Oh, I see. Because you're never really trying.
Right. If you never truly occupy the role of a husband, a friend, or a citizen, you never have to take genuine responsibility for your shortcomings in those roles. You get to maintain a perverse kind of innocence through your own supposed absence.
Wow, so you can't fail at a job you never actually showed up for.
Precisely.
So if the therapist is right, and this detachment is a cowardly shield against the stakes of the real world, what happens when he intentionally tries to drop the shield?
He does try, and it gets pretty dark.
Yeah, how does someone who treats life as a theoretical exercise force themselves to experience a real consequence? The manuscript details the extreme lengths the narrator goes to in order to puncture his own bubble.
He goes looking for situations that carry life or death stakes. He's just desperate to find an environment that will force him to feel present.
Like his time at the university.
Yeah, during his university days, he gravitates toward a Marxist study group. And the text makes it abundantly clear that his involvement has absolutely nothing to do with the actual political ideology.
He's not exactly a true believer.
Not at all. He isn't sitting around contemplating the strict class struggle worldview of material dialectics. He joins them purely because those students possess the absolute certainty he observed in Shimizu-san.
They speak in uncompromising declarative sentences about how the world functions.
Right, they have a script they believe in completely, and he just wants to absorb their certainty by proximity.
He wants their conviction to rub off on him. But it doesn't quite work out that way because the government cracks down on these radical groups and he gets swept up in a police raid.
He gets thrown into a holding cell.
This is the moment. The stakes are finally real, life and death. But when the police haul him into the interrogation room, he doesn't mount a heroic defense. He doesn't even wait for the threat of physical torture.
He folds immediately.
Immediately. Almost enthusiastically. He betrays every single one of his comrades. Gives the authorities names, meeting locations, operational details.
And the underlying psychological motivation he admits to is truly chilling. He doesn't betray them out of cowardice or self-preservation.
No.
He does it to feel the weight of a consequence.
We really have to unpack the mechanism of that betrayal. By ruining the lives of those students, he creates an undeniable external reality.
The hatred and disgust those comrades will feel toward him cannot be faked or philosophized away.
Exactly. Their anger becomes a tangible anchor for him. He uses his own despicable action to prove to himself that he exists because he successfully caused a measurable, permanent reaction in the physical world.
He was trying to force reality to pierce his performance, even if it meant becoming a villain to do it.
It's an incredibly destructive way to seek validation. And we see this failure to organically connect with reality surface again during a much more intimate, universally human experience.
The death of his father.
Right. This is the kind of seismic life event that should shatter any psychological performance. Society hands you a very clear script for this. You mourn, you cry, you feel a profound sense of loss.
But sitting at the funeral, the narrator feels absolutely nothing. Just this abstract, cold terror at his own emotional emptiness.
The machinery of his detachment simply won't shut off, even for his dad.
And the tragic irony peaks when his brother pulls him aside after the service. See, the narrator always believed his father despised him in his writing.
But the brother shows him something else.
Yeah, he reveals a stack of the narrator's published books that belong to their father. The pages are heavily worn, the margins are filled with the father's underlines and notes.
Oh, man.
The old man had spent his final years desperately trying to understand his absent son through his fiction.
Reading that part of the manuscript, you think, okay, this is it. This is the moment the glass breaks. And for a fraction of a second, it almost does.
He almost gets there.
He notes that his eyes sting. His throat physically tightens. He is standing right on the precipice of a genuine, unmediated human emotion. But
awful doubling kicks in.
instantly, the moment he feels the tear forming, the commentator in his head activates. He begins observing himself in the act of almost crying.
And the sheer awareness of the emotion immediately neutralizes the emotion itself.
He is pulled right back into the audience seats of his own life. And learner, here's where it gets really interesting. Think about what he does with this failure.
The true tragedy is what happens immediately afterward. He returns to his desk, takes this profound failure to mourn his own father, and packages it into prose for his publisher.
He literally monetizes his numbness.
He drafts these elegant, melancholic lines about how death is the only honest thing. He takes the agonizing void where his grief should have been and commodifies it just to pay the rent.
He even acknowledges the trap himself, right? He writes, "The map isn't the territory. And I've spent my whole life making maps of a place I've never actually visited."
He is so obsessed with documenting his inability to live that the documentation itself becomes the barrier to living.
This solitary, agonizing spiral of self-loathing feels like it has no bottom. It seems like he's just doomed to analyze himself into an early grave. But then the narrative abruptly shifts.
A collision occurs.
Right. He discovers, quite accidentally, that he is not the only ghost haunting his own life.
He is drinking alone in a Shinjuku bar when he strikes up a conversation with a woman we will call Keiko, the widow. She actually recognizes him from his author photo.
And she is not a fan.
Not at all. She proceeds to tell him that reading his books infuriated her. When he asks why, she explains that for years she firmly believed she was the only person on Earth who felt disqualified from being human.
She felt like he was stealing her secret.
Exactly. Her husband was killed in Burma during the war, and when the news arrived, she executed the societal script of the grieving widow flawlessly.
She did everything she was supposed to do.
She wore the appropriate black garments. She wept loudly when family visited. She maintained the solemn demeanor expected of her.
But internally, the emotional dashboard was completely flat.
She felt absolutely nothing.
Society demanded a performance, and she delivered an award-winning one. But the disconnect between her outward actions and her internal void was slowly crushing her.
And hearing this from a stranger is a massive revelation for the narrator. He isn't the only one.
But the theme of hidden emptiness explodes even closer to home when the narrative shifts focus to his own wife.
Oh, the wife. For years, she has been the backdrop to his existential crisis. She played the role of the endlessly patient, dutiful spouse, quietly enduring his emotional absence.
But eventually the facade cracks, and she drops a confession that makes the narrator's detachment look mild.
The wife finally articulates her ultimate crushing shame. She recounts the night of the firebombings when their neighborhood was engulfed in flames. Her family's house was hit and began collapsing.
Her father was trapped, wasn't he?
Yes, her father was pinned beneath a heavy wooden beam in the rubble, screaming for her to help him. She looked at the flames, calculated the risk, and made a choice.
A horrible choice to have to make.
Instead of attempting to save him, she turned and ran into the street to save her own life. And for years, she has let her community and her husband believe she simply wasn't at the house when it collapsed.
Think about the psychological weight of carrying that secret. The narrator, Keiko, and the wife suddenly realize they are all navigating the world burdened by actions and absences they find entirely unforgivable.
And what's fascinating here is how that guilt actually unifies them. Keiko matches the wife's confession, admitting that shortly after her husband's death in Burma, she invited her brother-in-law to her apartment and seduced him right on the floor.
Wow. Not out of grief, though.
No, not out of overwhelming desire or mourning. She did it in a desperate, frantic attempt to feel any intense emotion that might break through her numbness.
She was trying to force a feeling, just like the narrator did with the study group.
Furthermore, she admits a deep, secret relief regarding her husband's death. Because it freed her from a marriage, she realized she had only been performing in the first place.
It is an incredibly raw convergence of guilt. But what we need to focus on is the mechanism of how this shared guilt transforms them. This isn't just a trauma dumping session.
Not at all. It changes everything for them.
Right. It's like, imagine two professional stage actors starring in a massively complex, serious play. They're in the middle of a crucial scene in front of a packed audience, and suddenly they both completely forget their lines.
A total nightmare scenario.
Right. If one actor tries to keep improvising in character while the other just stands there blankly, the scene is an agonizing, humiliating disaster.
Because the illusion is breaking unequally.
Exactly. But it is just for a split second, they break character, make direct eye contact, and silently communicate to each other. We have absolutely no idea what we're doing right now. The dynamic shifts entirely.
That shared panic becomes real.
That mutual acknowledgement of the broken illusion actually becomes the most genuine, authentic moment they've shared all night. They bond deeply over the total breakdown of the performance.
That captures the psychological pivot perfectly. Once the masks hit the floor, the narrator, his wife, and the widow do not retreat from each other in horror. They don't judge the ugliness they've just exposed.
They accept it.
Instead, they form a highly unconventional, deeply pragmatic alliance to navigate their shared alienation together.
They decide to leverage their specific brand of brokenness. The three of them begin collaborating on a manuscript together, creating a three-voiced investigation into the nature of human consciousness.
And it develops into this deeply unorthodox domestic arrangement. The wife and the widow essentially split the emotional burden of the husband's chronic detachment.
They discard all the traditional scripts of marital jealousy or possessiveness.
Because those scripts require a level of genuine territorial passion that none of them actually possess. They trade those societal expectations for a radical mutual recognition of their own fraudulence.
Out of this bizarre collaboration, they distill a core philosophy that basically serves as the thesis of this entire deep dive. Transparent inauthenticity.
Transparent inauthenticity. They stop engaging in the paralyzing modern pursuit of trying to find their true, authentic selves.
Because maybe a core authentic self doesn't even exist.
Right. They accept that possibility. Instead, they openly acknowledge the mechanics of the performance. They know they are putting on the costumes of husband, wife, widow, and writer.
But they consciously choose to play the roles anyway.
Yes. Removing the pressure to be real allows them to actually engage with the world. The shared knowing while doing, like that eye contact between the actors who forgot their lines, creates a functional, sustainable space for actual human connection.
They ultimately published their collaborative manuscript under the title The Art of Absence. And just when you think the text has reached its philosophical conclusion, we get a massive narrative twist.
Oh, the twist is so good. It involves Shimizu-san.
The man from the War Office who casually looked at the bomb smoke. The narrator's gold standard for existing perfectly in the present moment.
The man who seemed entirely unbothered by the awful doubling of consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, months after The Art of Absence hits the shelves, Shimizu-san sends the trio a letter. He read their book, and he confesses that his unshakable certainty during the war
Was a meticulously constructed performance the entire time.
Yes, he was faking it too. He explains the dangerous psychology behind his behavior. He realized that if you mimic the physical markers of absolute certainty convincingly enough, the people around you will believe it.
And if everyone around you treats you like a rock of certainty, eventually your own brain falls for the illusion.
You trick yourself into believing your own script.
But the architecture of that illusion is incredibly fragile. Shimizu-san reveals that when the war ended and the imperial narrative of Japan collapsed, the societal script he was relying on just vanished.
The stage disappeared under his feet.
Because his certainty wasn't rooted in any internal truth, but merely in his ability to perform the national script, he shattered. He suffered a catastrophic nervous breakdown.
He had successfully forgotten he was wearing a mask, so when the mask was forcibly removed, there was nothing underneath to hold him together.
And Shimizu-san reaches out to thank the trio because reading their concept of transparent inauthenticity provided him with a survival mechanism.
It gave him permission to consciously, deliberately construct a new performance for his life, rather than being destroyed by the pursuit of absolute truth.
The manuscript leaves us with a really profound realization. Perhaps no one is operating with 100% authenticity.
The primary choice we make in life isn't between being a real person or being a fake person.
The crucial choice is between forgetting that you are performing, which leaves you incredibly vulnerable when the circumstances of your life unexpectedly change, as Shimizu-san discovered, or choosing to perform with an open, shared awareness of the script.
So, learner, how does this apply to the script you are currently reading from? I think the ultimate victory in the Book of Margins isn't a fairy tale ending where the narrator's psychology is magically rewired.
No, he doesn't close the book as a perfectly grounded, highly functional individual who never dissociates again.
Right. The victory is that he found a community to share his absence with. By shifting his internal monologue from "I am absent and alone" to "we are absent together," the trio managed to carve out a bizarre, yet undeniably beautiful kind of presence in the world.
They stopped fighting to get to the center of the page and learned how to build a home in the margins.
It's a pragmatic triumph.
It is. And I want to leave you with one final provocative concept to mull over today, drawn from a really brief journal entry written by the wife late in the text.
Oh, the field trip scene.
Yeah. She describes taking a group of young students on a field trip to see the cherry blossoms in bloom, and she watches the children experience pure, unself-conscious joy as the petals fall.
They're just totally in the moment.
Exactly. And she wonders if she ever truly experienced a moment like that, or if her mind was always just recording the event for later use. She writes this incredible line: "Perhaps memory itself is the ultimate performance selecting, editing, and arranging the past to create a coherent narrative where there was only chaos."
Yeah, that reframes everything.
Think about the memories you hold most dear, the ones that define who you are. The text challenges you to consider that you might simply be the ruthless editor of your own life's script.
Are those cherished memories truly accurate, raw recordings of the experience?
Or have you simply recalled them, polished them, and replayed them in your mind so many thousands of times, editing out the awkward silences and the messy realities, that you've perfected a script that never actually happened?
And if your identity is built on a script that you've refined over the years, does the fact that it's highly edited make it any less vital to the person you are today?
It's a question that really lingers.
That is the kind of question that stays with you long after the audio stops. Thank you, learner, for bringing us such incredibly dense philosophical source material today. It serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes stopping to examine the script instead of just blindly reading the dialogue is where the most meaningful discoveries are made.
Absolutely.
Keep questioning the roles you play, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.